On a warm day in late June of 1963, in East Finchley, North London, a baby boy was born who would one day be loved by millions. But no one in that room knew it yet. They did not see a superstar. They saw a son. They named him Georgios. And the world that would later know him as George Michael was, on that day, simply a family holding a newborn and hoping for an ordinary, happy life. No one could have imagined what this child would become. His father had come from far away. Kyriakos Panayiotou had crossed an ocean from Cyprus as a young man, carrying almost nothing but the determination to build something. England was cold and strange and did not always welcome him. He worked in kitchens. He waited tables. He smiled at customers who sometimes looked straight through him. He learned that in this new country, you earned your place one long shift at a time. He met an English woman named Leslie, and something in her softness met something in his determination, and they built a life together. They were not wealthy. They did not have connections or comfort to spare. But they had each other, and they had their children, and they had a small home in North London that, whatever else was missing, was filled with the smell of good cooking and the feeling of being safe. Georgios was the youngest, with two older sisters who doted on him. From the very beginning, he was a different kind of child, quiet, watchful, a little shy. He was not the loud boy in the room. He was the one in the corner, taking everything in, feeling things more deeply than he could say. He had a round face and serious eyes, and even as a small boy, there was something thoughtful in him, something private. His mother saw it. Leslie had a warmth that wrapped around her children like a blanket, and she understood her sensitive youngest son in a way that words could not quite capture. When the world felt too loud or too sharp for him, she was the soft place he could return to. She did not need him to be anything other than exactly what he was. That kind of love leaves a mark on a child. It stayed with him for the rest of his life. His father loved him too, but his father's love came in a different language. Jack, as people came to call him, had built everything through work, through sacrifice, through doing, rather than saying. He showed his love in the hours he put in the better life he was trying to give his children. He was practical, he was strong, and he had very particular ideas about what a respectable life should look like. The boy grew up in the kind of ordinary London neighborhoods you might not look at twice. Modest houses, small gardens, the rhythm of working families coming and going. The family lived in Kingsbury, and young Georgios attended the local schools, an unremarkable student in an unremarkable place. Nothing about the outside of his life suggested what was growing inside it, because inside, something extraordinary was beginning to stir. From a very young age, Georgios discovered music, and it was not just something he liked. It was something he needed. It was a door into a world that made sense to him, a place where all the feelings he could not express in ordinary conversation could finally pour out. When he found music, he found himself. He would disappear into his room for hours. He would put a record on and lose himself completely, listening to the radio late into the night, absorbing every melody, every harmony, every word. To his family, it might have looked like a boy simply enjoying his music. But it was more than that. He was studying. He was dreaming. He was quietly building, in the privacy of his own room, the foundation of everything he would later become. Music gave the shy boy something the world had not. It gave him a voice. In ordinary life, he was self-conscious, uncertain, the quiet one who held back. But in music, he was free. He could feel things fully. He could imagine a version of himself that was bold and seen and understood. Alone in that room, the boy who said so little had an entire universe inside him. There is a particular loneliness in being a child who feels different and cannot say why. Georgios carried that. He did not always fit easily into the world around him. He was sensitive in a place and time that did not always reward sensitivity in boys. And so he learned, early, to keep the deepest parts of himself hidden, to protect the tender things inside by not showing them at all. But music was the exception. Music was the one place he let himself be fully open. And somewhere in those long hours alone with the radio and the records, a dream began to form. A dream so large, so impossible for a working-class boy from North London, that he could barely say it out loud even to himself. He wanted to make music. He wanted to be heard. He wanted, more than anything, to matter. It was not a small ambition, and he knew it. Dreams like that were not meant for boys like him. At least, that was the message the world quietly sent. You were supposed to be sensible. You were supposed to get a real job, a stable life, something your parents could be proud of. A dream about music and stages and being adored by strangers was not on the list of acceptable futures. He could feel, even as a boy, the gap between what his father expected and what his heart wanted. Jack had crossed an ocean and worked himself to the bone so his children could have security, respectability, a solid life. And here was his youngest son, dreaming of something that to a practical man must have seemed like fantasy. The distance between those two visions would shape the rest of George's life. But that was still ahead of him. For now, he was just a boy. A quiet, watchful, sensitive boy with a round face and serious eyes and a secret growing inside him. A boy who sang to himself in the dark because the music was the truest thing he knew. A boy whose name was still Georgios, who had not yet become George, who had not yet met the friend who would change everything. He did not know what was coming. He did not know about the fame or the millions of records or the love of strangers all over the world. He did not know about the heartbreak or the loss or the loneliness that would walk beside the success. He only knew that when he sang, something inside him came alive. And that was enough to keep the dream burning. The world would eventually know him as one of the greatest voices of his generation. They would scream his name in stadiums. They would weep when they lost him. But before all of that, he was just a child in a small North London home, loved by his mother, watched over by his sisters, trying to earn the approval of a father who loved him in a language he could not always hear. Every great story has a beginning, and this was his. Not on a stage, not under bright lights, but in a quiet bedroom, with a record spinning and a boy listening, building a dream he was not yet brave enough to name. Everything he would become, the triumph and the heartbreak, the brilliance and the wounds. All of it started here, in the heart of an ordinary boy who felt things extraordinarily. His name was Georgios Panayiotou. The world would come to call him George Michael. And on a warm day in late June, the year he was born, none of that was written yet. There was only a family, a home, and a child whose whole life was still ahead of him, unwritten, unimaginable, and about to begin. Soon, that quiet boy would walk into a new school. And there, he would meet someone, a confident, easy boy who saw something in him that the world had not yet noticed. That friendship would light a fuse that changed music forever. But that is next week's story. For now, we leave him here, a dreamer in a bedroom, on the edge of everything. Today would have been his birthday. So we begin at the beginning, with the boy, before the fame, before the world. The shy child with the secret dream, loved by a mother who understood him and shaped by a father he could never quite reach. Everything started here, in this ordinary home, with this extraordinary heart. There is something tender about looking back at the beginning of a life you already know the ending of. We know what this boy will become. We know the joy and the heartbreak waiting for him. But he does not. And maybe that is the most beautiful part. To see him here, young and whole and full of a hope the world had not yet tested. So on this day, his birthday, we do not mourn the loss. We celebrate the beginning. We honor the boy before he was the icon, the human being underneath the legend, the dreamer in the dark, the child who simply wanted to sing. That boy deserves to be remembered, exactly as he was, before the world ever knew his name. This is episode 1 of his story, and we will follow it all the way to the end. Next week, the friendship that started it all. Subscribe and walk this journey with us, week by week, as we tell the story of George Michael, not the icon, but the human being. Because his story deserves to be told in full, and it starts right here. Happy birthday, George.